welcome. You see Jack Lord there. I am Brent West, and welcome to Tuesday's Wrestling Talk. And this is Pro Wrestling Inside and Out Live right here on Facebook. And if you're watching on YouTube, here we go. This is going to be part 2 of the interview with superstar Bill Dundee. Jack Lord is going to help me with the questions. We do have a few questions at the beginning of it, but before we do that, let's introduce the one and only superstar Bill Dundee.
Hi, boys and girls. How are y'all doing down there? How are y'all doing down
there? We're doing all right.
All right. We're doing all right here in Memphis, Tennessee, too.
David Williamson, I think you might know him, Bill. He sent in a thing that said, to me, Bill is one of the greats, and he is from Scotland, not Australia. He was 16 before he ever went to Aussie land. His accent is Scottish, not Australian. It used to drive me crazy when our TV announcer, Lance Russell, would say that tough little Aussie. Now, explain people that don't know, explain how that came about that you became an Australian.
Well, me and Barton Skim here began in '75 together from Australia. And Lance said, the Australians. And we never changed it. We just left it at that. Then George went home, and then I become the tough little Aussie to Lance. He would say, the tough little Aussie. And he just kept saying that. I said, well, I'll just be Australian. So I had a kilt and everything when I come here. I wore a kilt before Rodney Piper wore one.
Well, now, did you wear the kilt the first couple of weeks you were working for Jarrett?
Yeah.
And so they still called you Australian then? Yeah,
well, they said, why are you wearing a kilt? You're Australian. And everybody just wanted me to be Australian. So I said, okay, I'm Australian. Never wore the kilt no more.
Somebody, we're going to say hello to some of our people. Hello, Terry. Lance DeGraff, thank you so much for joining us. This part 2 of Superstar Bill Dundee interview. We're going to ask a couple more people before we move in. Mark Wilson asked, what are some of the details behind the Central States run? Dundee came in as a player coach for Buddy Landell, but after a couple of months, Landell left for the UWF, leaving Dundee to wrestle. He eventually held the Central States title before dropping the title to Bulldog Brock Brown at a house show, and Bob Geigel took the territory back over for Jim Crockett. What was the plan for Central States with Crockett? Why did he go south?
Well, that part we'll never really know. It was just Crockett, the office got into the beef, not the boys, and I think we was doing okay. It was starting to come up a little bit, but I have no idea why Jimmy Crockett pulled out.
Yeah, that was
maybe Dusty didn't want to be there. Who knows?
You know, we were talking before we went on the air about the angle you did with Rufus R. Jones, where you hit him with a chair. Can you tell us a little bit of what Rufus told you right prior to that angle?
Well, we laid in now. I said, well, okay. And you saw what happened.
He didn't take a bump. He went sliding down that podium. That poor old guy, you hit him so hard. I felt bad for him, but he actually had to be woke up.
Yeah. He said, lay it in, don't make it look bad. I said, okay, brother.
Well, if you'll remember, back in Mid-South Wrestling, the Snowman actually told Dutch Mantell to do the same thing. So,
yeah.
You don't tell anybody from the Tennessee territory to hit you with a chair.
No, sir. We've had a lot of practice. Yeah, I just remember that, too, the Snowman. Yeah, he did it to Dutch.
Yeah, he told Dutch.
Damn near knocked him out, buckled his knees. He damn near went down, but he fought it not to fall over.
He did, poor old Snowman. That was. Don't ever tell Dutch Mantell, Bill Dundee, Terry Gordy, Bobby Eaton to hit you with a chair.
Yeah.
All right, here's somebody else. Let's get these in. Dan Vernon, he was one of the best. He's talking about you, Bill Dundee. Would have loved to see him in the bigger promotions. Not as much to work with Lawler. I guess he was just talking about that's what he worked. He worked Lawler, Idol, Rich, and a few visitors a whole lot more than a few in Memphis wrestling. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. I wanted to say hello to KK Sr. He said, the real superstar, Bill Dundee, my favorite Mid-South wrestler. Thank you, KK. for getting with us, and also Paul Hatchett. Evening, gentlemen. All right, Bill, let's start. Last time we talked, we ended up with Beverly Dundee getting her hair shaved. That's where we ended up. Now, a few months later, you would start teaming with Jerry Lawler to go against people like the Valiants, Dennis Condrey, Phil Hickerson. Now, how did you go from that 8 weeks of feuding with each other? Do you remember how you got to be a tag team with Jerry Lawler after that?
Well, from day one, we gave that. Well, it was a shoot when I first went there. I mean, he didn't care for me, and I didn't care for him on a personal level, not on a business one. So it wasn't hard. The people knew we didn't care for one another. We told that story from the time I got here. So them two suckers team up, but they don't like one another. And I think they came to see if anything went wrong, what would happen in the match. So it drew, but yeah, we was never big buddies, and we didn't tell the people we was.
They after that, you would have a match with. Do you remember wrestling against a guy named Mike Stark? He was like a football player.
Big football player from Memphis.
How was those matches?
I fought for my life. No, he wanted to be a professional wrestler, so he tried. He didn't throw you around like a ping pong ball or none of that. So they were half shoots on my behalf.
Did he just start then, or had he been wrestling for a while?
No, he just started in Memphis. He owned a gym there, and the boys worked out. And they would say, "Why you need to be a wrestler?" So somebody showed him a couple of holes, and he became a wrestler.
Now, he would eventually become Lord Humongous, wouldn't he?
Yeah. But he could have kind of worked by the time that happened. When he first started, he was just a big, strong joker throwing you around like a ping pong ball.
All right, I think Jack's got a couple of questions for you.
Okay. In December of that year, you were teamed with Big Red. What's your memories of him?
Just a nice guy, big old guy. He didn't have the temperament to be in the wrestling business. I mean, you couldn't get him mad at you. He just never blew his cooler, did nothing stupid. You know, he was just a nice guy.
So you got along with Big Red?
Working with him as his partner and against him.
All right, so okay. I'm going to ask a question about Big Red. You know, he came to Atlanta. I didn't even know of Big Red until he came to Atlanta in 1980? 1980?
It was, because I saw him.
But you know, Big Red got in some major problems in Atlanta. I don't know if y'all ever heard about that, but Scott Irwin beat him so bad in the Omni one night because he refused to do a job for Scott Irwin. He was a super destroyer at the time. And, man, they fired him, brought him back, put him in the Omni together. And I'm going to tell you, wrestling fans know the difference between real and because that Omni got so quiet when he was beating him that the people, you could tell they were saying, all right, this is real. I mean, he beat Red bad over not wanting to put him over. And I don't know, you know, you kind of wonder why you would even get back in the ring with somebody that you told you wasn't going to put him over. But
right.
That's correct. All right, go ahead, Jack.
All right, let's jump to January 78, Mid-South Coliseum, Memphis. Bill Dundee, Norvell Austin defeated Phil Hickerson and Dennis Condrey for the NWA Southern Tag Team titles. Do you remember the build-up to you winning those titles with Norvell?
Well, wasn't Austin teamed up with them guys before he switched in babyface? Wasn't he on the heel crew with them?
I think he was, yes.
Yeah, and that was the start of the angle when they switched in babyface with me. He saved me or something, but yeah. But they all used to be together.
All right, in 23rd of January of 78, Southern champ Jerry Lawler went to a no contest with Jimmy Valiant in a hair versus hair match. Note on that, the fans rioted due to the main event, resulting in $2,000 worth of damage. What do you remember about this match where no one had their hair cut and the riot that happened?
Well, I just read that today in my book. I didn't know I wrote about it, but I obviously did. It's in my book, and I just read it today. As a matter of fact, me and Jared begged Lawler to cut somebody's hair. He said, "No, I'm over so good that they won't want my haircut." I said, "Bullshit. We advertise a haircut. I've had 3 haircuts, and my wife's. Believe me, if it's on the line, they want somebody to get the haircut." Well, the king thought he was over good enough that they would say, "No, don't cut it." Yeah, bullshit. He tried to burn the damn building down and rioted.
Someone asked me a question on here, and I don't know. Did you ever work with Ron Wright?
Yeah.
Because Brian Bodie Green asked, do you have any Ron Wright stories?
Not really. I go along all right with him. The matches was all right. Ron and Don Wright were a tag team, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, they were always treated me right.
All right, somebody asked this question, and I kind of know the answer to this, but David Lawson asked, how well did Bill get along with Ole Anderson in Georgia?
Well, Ole was just, he hollered a lot and screamed a lot, but I think I go along all right with it. He paid me every week, so but he's just, you know how he is. I mean,
yes.
I liked Ole, so I mean, I think I go along okay with him.
All right, I'm going to ask you that the questions are coming in, so we might be a little behind on this. A couple of questions are coming in, so I'm going to
right.
Jeffrey R. Archer. How you doing, sir? Glad to see you on here. He says, good evening, gentlemen. With Lawler losing, the loser leave town at the end of 85, early 86. The angle played out with Lawler coming back in March. Was he originally planned to be away longer? Side note, I met Bill in Cleveland, Tennessee at 104.1 radio years ago when he worked Cleveland for you, Brent. So was it 85, 86 that said at Angle, Jerry Lawler was, I guess he was gone, and was he supposed to be gone longer?
I don't really know. I mean, I just read that in the book too, that part. I mean, you had 2 things we tried him, the haircut. He never cut nobody's hair. That one. And the lose and leave. If you lose it, you got to go.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, so
that's why he wasn't going long.
All right, you would eventually start a feud with Norvell Austin. Did Norvell Austin turn on you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Sonny King would eventually come in.
Right, and then he took over the managing thing.
How was Sonny King to work with?
Big stiff devil. No, I mean, but we all were the kind of stiff back then. And when I'm 5'7" and 205 pounds, and he's 6'2" and 250 pounds, that's not a real fair fight. You know what I mean?
Yes.
He's whacking me and I'm whacking him back, but it's a different whacking. But I like Sonny. I go along good with everybody in the wrestling business. There wasn't too many people I never go along with. This is what we did for a living. So if you're going to have to drive up and down the road with them, you're just to make it nice, not miserable.
Not like some of the boys today. They like to make stuff miserable the whole time. Well, as a matter of fact, when we was with World Championship Wrestling in the early 90s, it was pretty bad about being miserable, especially the guys in the dressing room. You know, the guys would never like that in the 70s and 80s in wrestling. But, boy, once you hit that 90s in WCW, that's a miserable group of people.
Well, they were all getting paid too much money for one thing.
Yes.
They weren't really drawing it. They were just getting paid it. So it was a different era than when we grew up and your dad started. in it. You boys who hung around when you was little, and we all grew up in it. Different business.
There is. Let me ask you another question. You started teaming with Jimmy Valiant. Now, Jimmy Valiant just came off of being a heel run, I think, and you started teaming with him. How was it to team with Jimmy?
Good. I mean, you had to do all the work, but I didn't mind that. You know, Anson was once he got done talking, it was over. I liked him, and he drew money, and that's the whole thing. People bought a ticket to see him. So what can you say?
All right, Jack, you got some questions there?
Yeah. September and October 78, you had a series of matches with NWA World's Junior Champion Nelson Royal. What are your memories about those matches?
With who?
Nelson Royal.
Yeah, very good. You better have your wrestling boots on when you work with him, because he liked to do that. You know, Nelson Royal could shoot, he could wrestle, he could work, he'd do it all. So I enjoyed working with him.
Okay, in November of 78, you and Jerry Lawler defeated Jerry Novak and David Novak for the Southern Tag Team titles. By January 79, Robert Fuller was brought in as the booker. Was this the first time that there was a booker outside of Jarrett and Lawler, or were there other bookers before that brought in?
No, that was about the first time. Because Jerry Jarrett booked it for the first time we got here. He was in the office, so then Lawler got to be the booker because he was going to leave. So Jarrett made him the booker. Then he discovered how hard it was. He didn't want to be the booker. So, you know how it is being the booker. It's 24 hours a day job.
All right. In February of 79, you and Robert Fuller defeated Don Carson and Dennis Condrey for the Southern Tag Team titles. And what were your memories of tagging with Robert?
Well, he was the boss. What can you say? I mean, he paid us good. I enjoyed working with him, but I like the Fullers. I knew Buddy in Australia when he came to book Australia for Jim Barnett way back in the 60s. So I knew the Fullers before even in the business, technically. Because Buddy, you know, so I knew him in Australia 40 years ago, or whatever it is.
Now, let me ask you this: when Robert got there, all at once they start working with Nick Goulas again. Was this something that Robert took care of and get Nick Goulas and Jerry Jarrett back together again?
Buddy Fuller and Nick was technically partners. And then when Nick tried to do what he did and screw Buddy, and Buddy quit and went with Jarrett. So then when it came back, I didn't know what the ins and outs was. I mean, nobody told us nothing, so we never asked. But
all right, let me ask you. Somebody wants your Brian Bodie Green wants to know your thoughts on Coco Beware.
Oh, I like J.W. Ware. I like Coco. I go along good with him. He could work. He could do it all. So he was always nice to me. Matches was good. He never business-wide. He could do anything you asked him. And whatever you asked him, he would do. So, I like Coco.
Now, you had some famous scaffold matches with him. You had a scaffold match with him. And, you know, Rodney was telling me the other day he watched that tape. And he said you didn't even look like you were nervous at all. Did you not? Did heights not bother you?
No. That was the whole thing of Jarrett put me in. He said, "You're not scared up there, are you?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, don't be scared. If you are, don't show it." I said, "Okay," but I wasn't. So And I was in the roofing bit in Australia when I was just a kid. We run along them scaffolds and do all the things we did. So that never bothered me.
Did it bother Coco?
Oh, it bothered everybody but me. Because here's the other thing. When you're up there standing up, looking out over the people, and the other guy ain't scared, you ain't going to win if it comes to a shoot. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I was never bothered me.
Now, when they just start working the deal with Nick Gulas, you went to Chattanooga. You and Jerry Lawler went to Chattanooga, and you went against Terry Gordy and Terry Gordy and Michael Hayes. Sorry. Buddy Roberts wasn't there yet. Terry Gordy and Michael Hayes. What do you remember coming to Chattanooga to work for Nick Gulas?
Well, he was technically the boss when they were still all together. So it was just the same thing. Whatever he wanted, we did.
And I can remember I was there. I was there that night, sitting in the crowd, and it was one of Nick's, especially during that time. It was one of Nick's better crowds that he had, and the match was spectacular. And I think Hayes and Gordy after that, I think they came to Memphis after that, but they didn't last long in Memphis. I mean, I know Michael Hayes. Anybody that know Michael Hayes might know why he didn't stay long. But was there a reason why they didn't stay there no longer?
You just answered your own question. Gordy could be the same. So when they go on a wild streak, you couldn't do nothing with them. No, I don't mean working wise. I mean, don't go to the damn bars. Don't get in no fights. Don't do that. Don't do that. That was talking to deaf ears. You know how good he was. He went to the bar and somebody said something stupid.
Yeah, Terry Gordy and Michael Hayes, they actually lived that Freebird gimmick. There's no doubt.
Yes, they did. They believed it.
All right, I want to a couple of more people before we move on, Jack, to the next questions. There, we'll move on to your questions, but before we do, I'm going to get some people. Here we go. It said Jeffrey said only Bill Dundee would dance on the scaffold. Seriously.
Yeah.
Somebody asked about Garrett Emmett asked about what's your thoughts on death matches. What do you think they're talking about, Jack? I mean,
it's that subculture wrestling. They do the light bulbs and the barbed wire and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's the entirety of the match. Which, just as a side note, I know a lot of those guys that do that. They're great guys. I don't care for that aspect of the business, but if it draws, it draws. So, I got nothing against them.
All right, Al Henderson. Well, Bill, what do you think about death matches? People getting beat with what'd you say, bulbs?
Bulbs and
yeah, they did that with them long light bulbs. Yeah, I've seen that. I wouldn't even do one, but I've seen it when I think they're crazy.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be doing that. Al Henderson.
I mean, we did death matches back in the good old days. We just called it a death match.
Yeah.
2 or 3 falls in the cottage out of the ring. Well, now they hit you with damn light bulbs, throw shit at you, and do all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah.
Al Henderson.
So I'm not a fan of that.
No, I don't. I think that's going too far. Oh, Al Henderson asked, he said, ask Bill, how did you get along with Reggie B. Fine? I loved old Reggie B. Fine. I really did. I thought he had a good character.
Too.
And Kevin Lawler.
Well, Reggie B. and I go along famously. Go along good with Reggie. I like him. This and that. Kevin Lawler was just Lawler's boy. The same as Nick. Kevin Lawler to me was the Memphis George Gulas. He was Lawler's boy, and he knew he was Lawler's boy, and George was Nick's boy, and you know how that was. And Kevin Lawler was about the same way.
It's funny because we were talking one time about George, and I remember you telling me that Jerry Jarrett said to you one time, he said, if I ever push my boy in wrestling, you need to tell me. Let me ask you this question. Did you tell him when he started pushing his boy Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah. But I did it kind of a joking way. I said, hey, man, let me ask you something. You remember the famous words you said? I said, well, I'm here to tell you, you're pushing your boy too fast, too hard. Oh, Bill, he started to get over. I said, okay. What are you going to say when he answers it like that? He doesn't want you to say no more.
So what you're saying is he wasn't going to listen like Nick Goulas wasn't going to listen.
No. And my son, I knew how Jimmy was. It was all right for me to kick his ass and tell him he's goofy, but I didn't like nobody else saying it or doing it or coming and telling me. So I know where they're coming from.
Yeah. All right, Jack, you got a couple of questions there.
Yeah, you wrestled against Dick Slater. What do you remember about those matches that happened in Memphis and the ones that ended with a chain match? Or the one that ended in
No, I went to the ring and Dick Slater was on the other side of the ring. I don't no. Oh God, I was in a chain match with it one time, right? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
He had a chain on his wrist, and I go into the ring. He bundled up, threw it at me, said, "Put that on, punk!" I said, "Oh God!" So got the chain on. And then I got off and left. They were the good old days, they say.
Old Dick Slater was, when they called him unpredictable, that was no doubt.
Mercy. Yes, sir.
All right. After June the 11th, 79 matches in Memphis, Robert Fuller takes half the crew to Knoxville to fight a wrestler war against Bob Root, Ron Garvin, Bob Orton, Boris Malenko, and there might have been a few more. During this time, you would have the concession stand brawl, the infamous concession stand brawl. What are your memories about that?
Well, we fought to the back. We were in a program with Eddie Marlin and me was babyface. Who the hell was in that match?
It was the Blonde Bombers.
Larry Latham and Wayne Ferris.
It was Larry Latham and Wayne Ferris, yeah. So we'd done all kinds of stuff. Because when you go every week, as you know, you have 7 days to come up with something different. So we'd done it all and fought and got juice and did this and did that. So when we got fighting for the match,
I think we've lost him, hadn't we?
Well, when we got fighting to the back, but we'd done 100 times, the heels jumped over into the concession stand to get away from us. So it was Eddie Marlin's concession stand. So he said, "Come on, let's get him." So we just jumped over there and kept going. So that was, and it drew money.
Yes, it did.
They kept the tape rolling and they showed it all over the territory and everywhere they showed it, it drew.
Good deal.
So that was a kind of an accident, not an accident, but it just happened.
I have watched that on YouTube several times, and I love that. I mean, just seeing how the crowd got into that, that was phenomenal.
Right.
Now, after that, you had a match with Danny Davis where he lost his hair in Memphis. What do you remember about the build-up for that match?
Oh, wait a minute. We want to do a hair match. Now, we don't just have them. There's usually a build-up. Let me get this right. Was Danny one of the Blonde Bombers then? Was he managing them?
He was, Sergeant Danny Davis, the only 5-star sergeant in the Army. Yeah. Love that.
Right. And that was where we did the thing. It was the same old deal. If you want the job done, you got to do it yourself. So he was going to run me out of town, put his head on the line. And of course, the Superstar went over. We just kept the program going.
I bet you, and I would probably bet this, I bet Danny Davis didn't get to pay for a down payment on a house when he got his hair shaved.
No. He probably got $100.
If Danny, if you're watching, we're just playing with you.
Yeah.
But I doubt very seriously you got that. Not what Bill Dundee and his wife got to get their hair shaved.
But here's the other thing: who would technically go home and say to the wife, "We got a match with you next Monday night, and you're going to sit in the chair, and the barber's going to shave your head"? How many wives would have done that?
Not many. I don't think any, really.
Right, but we need the house and the down payment and all the things that goes with it, so the payoff was good. Because I talked to Jack, if this draws, what can blah blah blah. So I knew what we was getting before we did it.
All right, let me see. We've got a couple of questions that came in. David Lawson asked, how much heat did Bill and Buddy Landell have in the arenas in the Memphis territory? Also, they got together briefly in the NWA, but Bill want to do more with Buddy in the. All right, am I just reading that wrong, Jack?
Yeah, did Bill want to do more with Buddy in the NWA?
Oh, okay. All right. I guess did you back in when y'all were doing the Bill and Buddy show and you did all that? What kind of heat did y'all have during that time?
Oh, we had unbelievable heat, but you know how Buddy's life was. You could do something on Saturday morning, you may not see it for a week.
Yes.
He was just unpredictable.
Yeah, Buddy was his own worst enemy, unfortunately.
Yes, he was, and I tell him that. I said, Buddy, you wouldn't get on worst friggin' enemy, brother. Oh, but man, brother, people expect me to be a screw up. I said, no, they don't. So anyway, that was Monroe's excuse. He said they expect him to do it.
Brian asked, was there ever a program that you did that you thought was going to make money, but the crowd just didn't buy it? Do you remember of an angle or a program that just you thought, man, this thing's going to make me a ton of money, and just never did? Can I ask that question for just a second for Bill?
Yeah,
it's
different.
There was nothing he ever did that didn't draw. So there's the. But I mean, right. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm being serious. Everything y'all did in that Memphis territory had a reason. It was meant to draw money, and in most cases, don't you agree, Bill, that it did draw the money?
Right. I mean, Jerry Jarrett was. He was the smarter guy, as I know in the wrestling business. And your dad had a lot of Jerry Jarrett ways about him because they'd worked together, and I had a lot of Jarrett ways because we'd worked together. And Jarrett was very good at what he did.
Yeah.
And getting heat on the heels and sympathy on the baby face. He very good at that.
Yeah, I think he knew exactly. We talked about this last week that Jarrett doesn't get the I guess he doesn't get the recognition that he deserves of being probably one of the greatest promoters and owners of a professional wrestling company. He was able to keep it alive longer than any other territory, and he doesn't get credit for that.
No. He never really put himself out there, you know what I mean?
Yes.
When Ole was booking Atlanta, you know who was booking Atlanta? Ole, because he would tell you. But Jarrett wasn't that kind of person. He just went along and did his thing and made $1 million. All
right, Jack, you got some questions for Bill?
Let's see. You had a program with Ron Bass over the Southern title. What can you tell us about the program you had with him?
Well, Ron Bass and me had two different styles, but I never really said, I'm not doing that, or went into the ring thinking this will suck. I gave it my all, and usually my opponent did, so I enjoyed working with everybody. So, I mean, some were better than others. Now, the best, Lawler was good at everything. He was good at talk. He was good at taking bumps. He could make a comeback on you. He could kick your ass. So, Lawler, there wasn't too many Jerry Lawlers, but Don Bass, he was a big workhorse type guy. When he beat you up, the people believed it.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it.
I always liked watching him. Okay, later on in '79, you were the Southern Heavyweight Champion, and Jerry Lawler with Jimmy Hart defeated you in a title versus Lawler's $5,000 match. What was the build-up for that match? And at some point, you got a yellow streak painted down your back. What's your memories of that?
Well, you didn't really need much of it, like I said before. With me and Lawler, there's a build-up. The people in the whole of the territory knew we didn't like one another. And, you know, when I say we didn't hate one another, but we never hung around. He didn't drink beer. He didn't do some of the things I did. So we never hung around one another away from the building. So the people knew that. So they would just buy a ticket to see what would happen.
You know, I think, don't you believe today, Bill? And I believe this, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but don't you believe today? I don't watch as much wrestling as probably I should by doing these, but I don't think they build up. They don't develop. They developed you into a person that people knew when they bought a ticket to come see a wrestling match, and you knew you were going to give the people, if they paid $10, they were going to get $20 back. Right. Are they just not doing that today in today's wrestling?
I really don't know how they think today, how the kids think or what they do. I've never really been around the show where I've been sitting in the back and people talking. I don't know. So I don't know how they get back to the finales and what they're doing and what they're not doing. So I couldn't really tell you.
Yeah, it's.
I've never been around Vince McMahon when he's been giving out the finishes or what he's doing. I have no idea.
Yeah, it just don't seem like they're building the stars of a Jerry Lawler, a Bill Dundee, a Jackie Fargo. They're just not building those stars like they were back in those days. I think this seems to me, and I don't know, Jack watches it more than me, but it seems like they develop the wrestling like it's the Ringley Brothers and Barnum Bailey Circus today, and not really wrestlers.
Well,
right.
The overall product.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a legitimate sport to me, and I treated it that way. When I went to the ring, I tried to do the best to convince the people it was that. Well, but I don't know how they do it today.
Well, we are about to run out of time. I will thank you so much, Bill Dundee. And what we need to talk about right now is a new series that we're going to start doing. It's called Booking Mid-South Wrestling with Bill Dundee. It will be on Wednesdays. Bill, if I am not, I could be wrong about this, but Mid-South Wrestling in 1984, I believe it did somewhere around $28 to $30 million gross for the year. Am I correct about this?
Like I said, I was looking at the books today, and that's the year I was looking at. So I have them all right here. There's about 5 books, all Mid-South.
All right.
I mean, books that I wrote the matches in and the finishes and all that. Yeah. So we have in paper wrote, pen to paper with what we did.
Well, tomorrow night it will start right here at 7:30. This was the most successful year that Bill Watts ever had in 1984. 85 was good too, but 84 was spectacular. Bill Dundee comes in, and I think you started in December 1983, I believe. And and it came into that. Now, I've always said this. If Ole Anderson would have left the Georgia promotion alone, that would have been Ole Anderson's $30 million.
Right.
I mean.
But Ole, I just don't quite know what was wrong with him. But, yeah, you're absolutely right. But Bill Watts almost screwed it up, too. I think I told you last week what his wife said. We were sitting in his big house, and he's talking. And she said, "Hey, stud, you ain't going to fill this place up with midgets, are you?" And Mrs. Watts said, "Excuse me, Bill Watts, go look at your checkbook." And he just went, "Oh, okay." And he never said another word.
It was tremendous.
The place is on fire. We're Ricky and Robert and Dennis and Bobby. And
yeah,
he's calling them midgets. Yeah, Ricky and Bill Dundee ain't the biggest guys in the world, but we're pretty good at what we do.
Yeah, it was an amazing year. It was an amazing year. And then in 1985 was a good year too. It was just that 84 was just a was a tremendous year at Mid-South Wrestling. And if you want to know how it is to book a wrestling territory and what makes you successful at booking a wrestling territory, Bill Dundee is going to let you know that we're going to start from January of 1984. He's going to go through the year. He's going to tell you how he did it, what his thought processes was. I think you'll enjoy it very much. Bill, thank you so much for coming on here, and everybody's going to get to hear you now. And hey, listen, there could be things that make some people mad occasionally, but hey, this is professional. Oh, yeah. Hey, this is professional wrestling, so sometimes you're not going to make everybody happy.
I hear you. So when are we starting tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow at we'll give you a call around 7:20, and we'll get on the air about 7:30, and we'll start talking Mid-South Wrestling, and it will be with my brother Rodney West, and Bill will. And now my brother's he's not like me. I'm a little reserved next to him, so there's no telling what Bill Dundee and there's no telling what Bill Dundee is going to talk about.
Well, I'll get my book out and we'll read parts of that as you answer questions. Because are you read my book?
Yes, I have.
Well, there's the Watts theories in it, Memphis is in there, so we can use that as guidelines on some things.
All right, Bill. Well,
and then you'll have a million questions.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be a bunch of questions on here. But me and Jack are going to finish up the show. But Bill, thank you so much. And we'll get back in touch with you tomorrow, and we'll start that and talk Mid-South Wrestling, and go ahead and tell Jim Cornette we're going to be talking about him on this program. So
yeah, we're going to knock that son of a gun. Oh yeah, he'll be calling in. He'll be hot.
Yeah, he'll be hot when we get through with him, because there's something I've got to share with you that he said, and I will share that with you when we get to when he gets his hair shaved. So he said something on his podcast, and we're going to get your take on that, because I'm not for sure what Jim Cornette said was actually the truth, and we're going to figure that out. We'll figure that out when he talks.
We'll try to figure that out tomorrow.
All right, I appreciate it, Bill. I'm going to go ahead and cut you off. Me and Jack are going to finish up the show, and we'll see you tomorrow on that. Thank you so much, Bill.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. Oh, appreciate it. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye bye.
See ya.
Well, Jack, that was a great interview with Bill Dundee. There's no more of a legend than Bill Dundee. There's no doubt. Let me bring in Rodney right there. Tomorrow, let me put this off so somebody can see you. Hey, he set up good with us back there today. Let me cut.
West Chateau. It is a disaster in the house. There is tools laying everywhere. I always wanted a tree house, just not this way, when a tornado put the tree through the house. And now, we've got hammers, we've got saws, and this is the only place in the house that I could set up. So I thought, well, let's just do a little pro wrestling inside and out right here in the back. You see what I'm saying?
Let me ask David Lawson. How did Ronnie West know where he was going after you left the territory?
Oh, he'd call around.
See who would pay him the most money.
Or who was doing good.
In 1962, he started in the wrestling business. In 1962, he started with Nick Goulas. He was 14 years old. He stayed working for Nick Goulas until 1970. He went to, I guess it was 1970. He went to the Feuds, and I'm thinking he went to the Feuds, and he wasn't going to leave there, but my mother didn't want to stay there, so they left, and he went back to work for. Then he went from there. He went to the Carolinas, where he made the most money that he'd ever made in the wrestling business. When he got his check, he was like, "Man, I didn't know you could make."
He thought something was wrong. He went to him and said, "Hey, is this right? I don't think this is right. I think it's too much." Because he didn't want to have to come back the next week and say, "Oh, do I owe you? Well, you owe us some money back. We paid you too much." No, it was the right amount.
Yeah, and he left there because Tom Ernesto was going to book Atlanta. So he got to Atlanta because a booker wanted him to go with him. So he went with Tom Ernesto to Atlanta. he stayed there and he was working for the office, and then all that stuff happened with Ann Gunkel, and Dad worked for Ann Gunkel for a period of time. And then Jerry Jarrett come along and said, don't work for Ann Gunkel. You're going to come here to work. And he never went back to Ann Gunkel. And then when he left Atlanta, he actually went to work for Crockett. All he did was call Crockett. He really never left. When he was doing the stuff back and forth stuff from Louisiana to there, he just get tired and he just decided he wanted to leave. So he called Ron. For a long time, he just went back and forth from Ron Fuller to Mid-South Wrestling, Ron Fuller, Mid-South Wrestling. You know, it was good that Bill Watts and Ron Fuller would play him like a ping pong back and forth, but he'd get tired in Mid-South. Mid-South was a hard territory to work, so he'd get tired there, and he wanted to go to an easy territory. Let me see. I probably Billy Vincent Jr., these new guys, especially Dustin Stark and R. from Bill Dundee. Yes, he could. Now, Rodney, tomorrow night, you're going to start a new series, and I know you've already talked to Bill Dundee. He's got all his books together.
He's ready.
Tell us a little bit about that show for tomorrow.
We're going to be doing Bookie with the Superstar. We're going to be talking about 1984 with Mid-South Wrestling. We're going to talk about a little bit of 1983. I think what led up to 1984 started actually in 1983. Actually started with Georgia Championship Wrestling Superstars. And then later on, when that fell through, basically what Bill was about to do for Georgia, he did for the Mid-South, and history will show that Bill Dundee was right and somebody else was wrong. We'll talk about that tomorrow night. And we're going to talk about how the Midnight Express, Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton came along, got put together with Jim Cornette. Mr. Dundee has all that story. We're going to talk about Terry Taylor, the tremendous condition of Buddy Landale when he was there. And we're also going to talk about a match that really could have been a main event. In fact, was a main event for television. That's Lanny Poffo and Buddy Landale. And it was a tremendous match. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more. And we're actually going to get through the inner workings of how Bill put things together and put the crew together, because he was the coach, he was the captain, and he was the leader. But he also had to have that quarterbacks. He also had the full team, and he did. He put it together. And the biggest year ever, 1984, with Bill Watts and Mid-South Wrestling. And we're going to discuss all of that tomorrow night. We're going to talk about the first 3 TV broadcasts and then how the shows were doing there. It's going to be something. And if those of you maybe Destin's son may need to tune in, maybe we could teach him something. I don't know. We'll find out all about that starting tomorrow night right here on Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. We're going to start 7:30, also, which will be 6:30 Central Time. And come on down. We're going to be asking, have your questions. We'll be answering questions, and it'll be fantastic.
When did Ron join Cole Brothers Circus? Rodney, I don't remember.
I believe it was in 2001. 2001 is when he joined Cole Brothers Circus. He was there
we tried to get Jack to join. He never would.
No, he didn't. We got Bill. We got Bill Dundee to join.
I was still trying to keep a family together. That didn't work out, but I could have joined the circus.
That was rough. That was 8 months away from home. And I did it for off and on and it got to you. The hotel rooms night after night after night, never seeing your own stuff, and going through the holidays and your way, and it really wears on you after a while. But it was a good time. I wouldn't exchange that experience for anything. It was very good.
Now we're fixing to finish up, but we are coming up on the 1-year anniversary of the Facebook page, Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. It's almost coming up on 1 year. On May 1st, it'll be 1 year that we have been sharing old wrestling stuff with you. Well, on May 1st, we're going to do a special live stream. We're going to tell you the kind of the future of the Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. We're going to tell you about the page, the YouTube channel, and everything that we have for the future and shows that we want to do. Because what we'd like to see is Monday through Thursday, we at least have a 30 to 1 hour. We come on here and talk a little bit about wrestling every day. And so, plus there's a bunch of other stuff that we want to tell you about that we're looking to do as the year progresses. And after this 1 year, and maybe by the second year, we got some big things that we want to do. Let me make sure somebody else asked. Brian did say you got me, and yes, we did. Yes, he did.
I'm sorry about that.
Yes, we're apologize that you had to work for the circus. No, we're just joking. All right, Thank you so much, Jack. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rodney, for coming on and telling us.
See you tomorrow night. Booking with the Superstar tomorrow night, 7:30, 6:30 Central, right here on Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. All
right. Well, we're gonna take it off next Tuesday. Though we're going to talk about one of the famous tag teams of all time, the Fabulous Freebirds. We'll talk about them right here next Tuesday. So get your information. Tell us about your favorite time you went to see the Freebirds and send it to us, and we'll be talking about that next week. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next Tuesday with the next episode of Pro Wrestling Inside and Out, Tuesday's Wrestling Talk.